Hi guys, so GB News is in a bit of bother with the regulator Ofcom. The organisation's main criticism surrounds the People's Forum, which saw Rishi Sunak host questions from a studio audience. Now the regulator claims that the programme breached broadcasting impartiality rules. It says in its report that while the audience questions did somewhat challenge the government's performance and policies, members of the audience were not able to challenge the Prime Minister's responses in any meaningful way. Ofcom also claims that the programme allowed the Prime Minister to use the performance to set out future government policies if re-elected in the next general election. And finally, Sunak was able to criticise the Labour Party's views and positions without either someone from the other side pushing back or the host of the show providing balance. Jacob Rees-Mogg and other employees of GB News have now tried to present Ofcom's report into the channel as something of a witch hunt. But journalist and author Michael Crick was on hand to put the penny farthing made flesh back into his box. Enjoy this.
I'm not aware of there ever being a proper debate in Parliament about this, that from now on you can have a channel stuffed with politicians of left or right, but only left or right virtually, and that's okay. That's what Ofcom has essentially been saying so far. Or occasionally they've come out with a ruling, but they don't ever punish you.
But it is legally obliged to support freedom of speech.
Sorry?
It's legally obliged to support freedom of speech. And isn't it better to have GB News in a regulated sphere than we could simply go onto YouTube? Well, and then we don't have to follow any of this
Well, I think
stuff.
if you went onto YouTube, you wouldn't get even the meagre advertising that you do get, and that's why you prefer to have the regulated, the licensed
actually,
method.
people get quite good revenues from YouTube.
Well, in that case, maybe that's a choice for you to make. But and as a Democrat and a parliamentarian, you surely agree with that. It's not up to a government agency, an agency of the state, to change the rules midstream and say, from now on, it's okay. And also, remember what they've also said is that they don't regulate GB News so heavily because your viewing figures aren't very high. And in which case, you better keep your viewing figures down, Jacob.
I love this guy. The audacity to go on their show, on their channel, and tear them apart like this. It's amazing. I wouldn't drink anything in the green room, Michael. It may not be safe. Now, this is wonderful. So, just to respond to some of the things here, the viewing numbers are so low that Ofcom don't really investigate GB News. They're not really worth our while. There's no point sending people around to check on them because, well, they don't really have much of an impact. And that seems to be the case. Viewing figures are very low, and you notice with the likes of GB News, what they will do is when they have a moment when the figures are high or higher than maybe Sky News or ITV, they will broadcast it from the rooftops. And this is something you don't see with regular mainstream media outlets. They don't do this type of broadcasting, shouting from the rooftops how we are succeeding here. This is the sort of thing you see in Fox News in America, where they cherry pick ratings and say, see, we're number one with the country or whatever. So there will be periods when parts of the day when GB News are doing quite well, but most of the time it doesn't seem to be the case. Now, I love the fact that Jacob Rees-Mogg said, well, what we'll do is we'll go on YouTube. No, you will not. No, you have content on YouTube, but if you were to move the entire operations onto YouTube, it would be closed within a week because you're not going to be able to afford on the advertising revenue you receive from YouTube to pay salaries for staff. Never mind Jacob Rees-Mogg and Lee Anderson, who are on over £100,000 a year. Now, I think Mogg and Anderson will probably be removed after they lose their seats at the general election. It's more likely Lee Anderson. It's also possible Jacob Rees-Mogg. But I think what's going to happen with GB News after the general election is there's going to be a rehash of the channel. I don't think it will disappear because, as Andrew Neil said in that select committee, it serves a niche. It does serve a purpose. It's about pushing, right-wing ideology, right-wing policies. And of course, when Labour are in power, they will continue the rhetoric. So I do think they serve a purpose for a certain section of society. But if they were to move everything to YouTube, they would fail. if they had to rely on the revenue. If they stay as a terrestrial channel, if they stay on the mainstream channels, then there's more of a chance for them to attract revenue from advertisers or from big donors, because they can say, look, we're not doing very well, but we are breaking through. But I have to laugh at the idea that moving everything to YouTube would be the way to go. It would fail, absolutely. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.